So I oftentimes have talked to you guys about this Zika virus. Um, as I've stated before, when I floated around some of my ideas, I stated that I was by no means a scientist or geneticist or biochemist or anything like that. But it seemed to me that the potential for these genetically altered mosquitoes they're releasing to pass DNA onto humans apparently is actually very real. Now, fortunately, so far with their experiments, we haven't seen a major catastrophe with this yet. And even though some diseases have been drastically reduced by using some of these genetically modified mosquitoes, there's a lot of scientists out in the world who believe that this is a ticking time bomb and eventually they're going to make a mistake with the science they don't really fully understand, and it's game over. Now, I found this article here, and it's talking about these GMO mosquitoes they want to release over in Florida, and this was done back in July 1st of 2015. This is an old article. I came across it when I decided to research the possibility of genes jumping from the mosquitoes to humans. Now, there is an article on Natural News, which a lot of people have reported on, and the title of the article talks about genes jumping from mosquitoes to humans. But the actual article itself says nothing about it whatsoever. So it's very misleading. So I decided to do my own research. I'm not going to follow the herd. I want some solid evidence to back up what I'm saying. And it's talking about this GMO mosquitoes, and it says millions carrying the kill switch gene are already released. And they're about to release millions of them over there in Florida. Now, I'm going to scroll down here. It says the OX513A is a man-altered mosquito that carries a kill gene switch. Since it is only the female mosquito that bites and transmits the fevers, Oxitec says all of the GMO mosquitoes they plan to release are male. The company's theory is that the designed genetic mutant males then mate with females in the wild, where after their offspring carry the kill switch, which in turn produces an effect which causes the offspring to die. According to Oxitec's website, it claims that 95% of the offspring die before reaching maturity. And once again, I've often said, even though there's no actual conclusive evidence to link microcephaly to Zika, it does seem quite interesting that the same thing that they're doing with these mosquitoes to control the mosquito population might be the same thing that's happening to these babies. Now, a lot of these science studies that you hear from the mainstream news are kind of like what they tell you about the GMOs, and that there's absolutely no chance for any of these things to be harmful whatsoever. Now, the problem with this thing that they're doing is that many of the sterilized males become so physically hampered after Well, let me skip that. I'm actually going to skip that, and let's go down here. This is what you guys want to see. In a document called "Genetically Modified Insects," the UK's Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology said this. Environmental NGOs such as Greenpeace suggest that GM insects could have unintended and wide-ranging impacts on the environment and human health due to the complexity of ecosystems and the high number of unknown factors, making risk assessment difficult. They have raised several concerns about the release of GM insects. New insects or diseases may fill the ecological niche left by the insects, suppressed or replaced, possibly resulting in new public health or agricultural problems. The new genes engineered into the insects may jump into other species, a process called horizontal transfer, causing unintended consequences to the ecosystem. Release would be impossible to monitor and irreversible, as would any damage done to the environment. Do I need to read that again? Right there it says the new genes engineered into the insects may jump into other species. Guess what? People are a different species. Now let's jump down here to 3. Releases would be impossible to monitor and irreversible. So, if something happens and these kill switch genes accidentally jump from the mosquito into the human, then we have the kill switch gene, and according to the UK Parliament's Parliamentary Office of Science and Technology, it'd be absolutely irreversible. Dr. Joseph Mercola, a well-known and controversial media personality and health author, wrote these concerns in his digital publication. The potential exists for these genes, which hop from one place to another, to infect human blood by finding entry through skin lesions or inhaled dust. Such transmissions could potentially wreak havoc with the human genome by creating insertion mutations and other unpredictable types of DNA changes. According to Alfred Handler, a geneticist at the Agriculture Department in Hawaii, mosquitoes can develop resistance to the lethal gene and might then be released inadvertently. Todd Shelley, an entomologist for the Agriculture Department in Hawaii, said 3.5% of the insects in a laboratory test survived to adulthood, despite presumably carrying the lethal gene. Tetracycline and other antibiotics are now showing up in the environment in soil and surface water samples. These GMO mosquitoes were designed to die in the absence of tetracycline, which is introduced in the lab in order to keep them alive long enough to breed. They were designed this way, assuming that they would not have access to the drug in the wild. With tetracycline exposure, for example, in a lake, these mutant insects could actually thrive in the wild, potentially creating a nightmarish scenario. It turns out that Dr. Mercola could be on spot with his ideas about these mosquitoes having the potential to come across tetracycline in the wild. A recent viral World News article demonstrates how Minnesota's lakes and rivers are now known to be trashed with chemicals and pharmaceutical drugs. Oxytex has already released these creatures into the wild in several places, the first of which was the Grand Cayman Islands. The release was for the most part conducted in secret, but when locals became aware of it, they were left feeling upset and disenfranchised. Following the Grand Cayman release, Oxytec went forward and released their Franken-skeeters in Malaysia, Brazil, Panama, India, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. In fairness, it was reported that release of millions of the OX5 13A into specific areas in the aforementioned countries suppressed corresponding populations of yellow fever mosquitoes by up to 90%. It should be stated that those tests abroad, although secretive and out of the public eye in most cases, were not carried out by Oxitec alone. They have these other institutes that were involved. Since millions of these mosquitoes have already been released into the wild, populations using mostly poverty-stricken countries as the guinea pigs, some people want more comprehensive research to be done on the long-lasting ramifications in those areas first, places where the horse has already been let out of the barn before any more of these mosquitoes are put on the loose. Oxitec and their enabling counterparts are able to go forward releasing the GM mosquitoes into the wild in part because there is currently little to no regulations in place prohibiting it. In the U.S., until legislators got involved and bring the EPA and/or FDA regulations up to speed on the issue of releasing GM insects and animals into the open environment, companies like Oxitec will likely to be able to continue their experiments in the wilderness areas surrounding local communities, utilizing Americans, the ecosystem, and the whole planet for that matter as their test subjects. So you hear that? This company is using the whole planet and possibly the whole fate of the human civilization in an experiment, in a science that nobody, including them, fully understands. Businesswoman Mila Demir said in a PBS documentary on the subject at first, I say, wow, this is fantastic. This is a really great idea. To be able to fight mosquitoes with another mosquito, what a great concept. But after Demir took more time to research the matter, her view on the subject changed. I don't want my kids to be laboratory rats. I don't want my kids to be guinea pigs. Why? Because this is a brand new technology. You get these mosquitoes, you release once and for all, and let's experiment and see what happens. Now, Demir has started an online change.org petition that seeks to block the experiment, and as of today, that petition has nearly 157,000 signatures. In a conducive environment, mosquitoes can be a pain in the caboose, to say the least. And to add that they are the most deadly animal on the entire planet, that's including lions, tigers, bears, and even humans. Mosquitoes put around 1 million people in their graves every single year worldwide. And basically what they go on to say is actually the world will be better off if we just eradicated mosquitoes altogether. So I'm going to leave a link to the article. It has a link to the petition. I don't know if that's a current petition, but there may be, I'm assuming because this is an older article, it probably is not. But there may be newer ones. So I will look around and I will see if I can find some. But as you can see right here, up here at the top, even these scientists over here in England said this thing has a possibility to jump to humans and could be irreversible. Y'all take care.